Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening live to an edition of ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here in Atlanta. Mark Mancini producing the show from Los Angeles today. Our guest is David Walker, former quarterback at Texas A&M, and also he currently covers the Southeastern Conference for the Rebel Walk. The Rebel Walk, your source for Ole Miss Rebels sports information. David, welcome back. This is part 2 of our Southeastern Conference preview. Last Friday we did part 1. And before we go into our preview, it's been a heck of a day here. We have a tropical depression here in Atlanta. It's pouring down rain. I've got possums in my yard. And, oh, by the way, it is my wife's birthday. Happy birthday to you, Lisa. Out in western Pennsylvania, I'll be making the trek from Atlanta tomorrow, and we will celebrate your birthday then. David, welcome to ATL Prime Sports, and thanks for coming on as always.
Oh, thank you for having me, Todd. I appreciate it. It's always a blast, man.
It is, definitely. And let's talk about Lane Kiffin right away and the spell situation there that was on Twitter. And I'll let you go ahead and go into detail about it, and then we'll talk about the SEC.
Well, at SEC Media Days, Evelyn Van Pelt, known as Ole Miss Evie on Twitter, and the Rebel Walk, made a comment during the interview that they were having with Lane Kiffin about how svelte he looked. You know, he's lost some weight since last season. He's gotten in really good shape and looks good and feels good, obviously, and that word "svelte" just came out. And anyway, Lane saw it on Twitter, saw that she had tweeted that, and retweeted it, and put the emojis of the rat poison, which is what they always use at Alabama and so forth when somebody's talking too good about you. You know that it's gonna give you the big head, and so they call it rat poison because you don't want to hear that. You want to keep driving. So Lane made a retweet on that. You can rat poison above on this tweet about his felt new body look. And that was kind of funny. It was really cool. You know, there's nobody like
David Lane Kiffin made the comment that I'm asking my players to get in shape and get ready for the football season, and they've got an outside chance at this Western Division, which I believe is the best division in college football. Probably the Big Ten East maybe would be a tie for second with the SEC West, somewhere in that range. But he said, look, I asked my players to get in shape, to commit to 100%. I need to do so, too. Maybe this is their antidote for the rat poison coming up this season.
Very well could be. It's a really good point. And I remember whenever I coached, I ran an hour every day. I was a big time runner. I'd come in from my run and meet with the team just dripping in sweat, in Houston. And so, you want to be a good example for the guys. I think that's a really good step forward for Lane to do. He's a heck of a guy anyway. I think he's one of the most popular coaches out there. And mine, you're always going to get, what he really thinks. And, he's a blast on Twitter. So, he's a good follow. And definitely doing a great job leading that Ole Miss program.
Well, and he comes from a great football family pedigree. His father, Monty Kiffin, a fantastic football coach in his right, and he has great family genes, and we here at ATL Prime Sports wish the Ole Miss Rebels football program a ton of luck this season. They're going to need it, and along with obviously some great skill from the offensive side of the football. And of course, we know Ole Miss needs to improve a ton defensively if they're going to take that next step in the SEC West. Let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the teams in the conference. We went over the heavy hitters on part 1 of our show last week. Part 2, I want to stick with the West and Auburn. And Auburn, I swear, nobody's talking about Auburn this year. They've got them projected to finish 4th in the West, in some publications 5th, and I've even seen one publication 6th. So this is the Auburn mantra. When you don't talk about us, we're really good, and we come out of somewhere and do great things. But when you talk about us and hype us up, we have a bad season. Well, I'll tell you what, with new coach Brian Harsin and Bo Nix, the quarterback that's coming back, he did beat Alabama as a freshman. And, this defense should be pretty solid with Owen Pampo at linebacker. Auburn to me is another sleeper in this West, kind of like Ole Miss. They're going to be good defensively, but can Bo Nix bounce back under Brian Harsin's first year coming over from Boise State? And can he bounce back and have a good season? If he can, look, Auburn's in the mix, David, no doubt.
No doubt. And, I've always really liked Bo Nix. I remember coming back from the Memphis game 2 years ago. Went over there and made a quick trip, 24-hour trip there and back, and saw the opener in Memphis, which was a tough loss for the Rebels. And on the way back, we're listening to the Auburn game. Auburn's playing Oregon, and it's just a tremendous game. And we're kind of watching it on our phone or computer. And Bo Nix's first start, and he led a hell of a drive at the end of the game and got the win. And I was really impressed with him and have been ever since he's been the quarterback there. He's done a good job. And QBR was like 63.8, which isn't that great his first year, but it improved to 73.1 last year, which is like 4th or 5th in the conference. And they had some pretty good quarterbacks in the conference last year when you're talking about, Mac Jones and Corral and Trask and those guys. I mean, there were some players who are in the NFL now. And so, I like Bo. I think he's going to be fine. If he has this same type of improvement this year, then Auburn's going to be right in the mix. And, we all know what kind of program Boise State has and has had for decades. And with their new coach coming in from there, I'm sure they're looking for some big things. And, they were 6-4 last year in an all-SEC conference schedule. And, they're competitive. As long as Bo Nix doesn't kill the clock by throwing it backwards, I think they're going to be okay. You remember when that happened to him last year? That was, but it didn't get called. It did get called. They let him slide with it, which was, probably a game changer, I think, against Arkansas. And but he is a really strong quarterback. He's improving every year, and that's what you look for. And with the guys that he has around him, particularly in that backfield, Auburn's going to give everybody a run for their money.
They have an interesting schedule, David. When I look at Auburn, their first 2 games, Akron and Alabama State, they'll obviously win those. And they do get Georgia State at home, and we covered Georgia State with Dave Cohen here on ATL Prime Sports. We'll definitely talk about that matchup in late September, but they've got some really tough road games this Auburn, at Penn State, at LSU, at Texas A&M. They do get Georgia and Alabama at home, but man alive, Brian Harsin's going to find out. This is not Boise State right away. This is the SEC, and they're not getting a break in the schedule at all. Let's go over to Mississippi State if we can. Mike Leach's teams, they usually show a lot of improvement in year 2 in a rebuild. And last year, for the first game of the season, I thought, holy smokes, Mississippi State beat Louisiana State. LSU, and I thought, well, they're going to be contender. Well, it turned out LSU was very mediocre last season, and Mississippi State did not have, their season was not a success at all either. Now, this is usually year 2, and, I expect Mississippi State, who scored 14 or fewer points 5 times in 2020, to improve dramatically on offense. And you know, do you think Will Rogers will be the starting quarterback? Because Coach Mike Leach said, you know, that right now the quarterback position is wide open. Do you think Rogers will return and get the starting knob?
Well, that remains to be seen. You know, he did a pretty good job last year. Came in. He's having some competition right now with a kid from South Alabama, Chance Levertich, who's running second team right now. And there's another quarterback from Southern Miss who's missed camp so far named Jack Abraham. And
right.
So we have to wait to see what he does. You know, Will Rogers took over for Costello last year. And Costello, you know, the kid who beat up on LSU so bad in that opener, just shocked everybody. But, you know, he went down to injury, and he's with the L.A. Chargers right now. So you always look for Mike Leach to make leaps and bounds. That's what he did at Washington State. And you can never count Mississippi State out, not with him quarterbacking the air raid, you know, really being the guru of the offense. You know, Kevin Sumlin ran the air raid. It worked well until it got up against the really good athletic defenses, those at LSU and Alabama, and even Auburn. Auburn, in fact, going to A&M, you mentioned that. I don't know if they lose at A&M. They pretty much win every time they go in there. But Mississippi State, I think Will Rogers is going to be the guy. Unless somebody comes up and beats him out, it should be his job to lose. And threw for almost 2,000 yards last year, had a 69.1% completion rate, 11 TDs, 7 interceptions. But you know, was young, you know, first-time offense. So with the spring training and all the two-a-days and everything going on, he could be a really good quarterback as well this year.
Well, moving over to the SEC East and Georgia's biggest challenger by all the predictions out there is Florida. And, you know, it's interesting to me, Dan Mullen, you know, he should get production from quarterback Emory Jones, who is, you know, he has a lot of athleticism at the position. He was named, you know, the best scrambler of all the quarterbacks in the conference. And, David, he's going to need it with this offensive line, which, you know, could struggle. And if it struggles, Florida's going to have to rely on that defense. But, you know, when they lost, I mean, this was daunting to replace. Quarterback Kyle Trask and tight end Kyle Pitts, who came here to the Falcons, and Kadarius Toney at wide receiver and others. I mean, you know, Florida's only returning 4 players on offense from last season. You know, they're going to rely on that defense, and they're going to have to rely on a running game and give time for Jones to throw the football. If they do, they'll be dangerous. If not, they could really struggle this year.
Well, you do have Emory Jones, who is presumed to be the starting quarterback. But yesterday, Coach Mullen went on and on about a sophomore named Anthony Richardson, who was a 6'4", 235-pounder. He threw 3 TDs in their last scrimmage. Dynamic runner, can throw from any distance, and he picked number 15 to wear at Florida. So if you're going to be wearing number 15, you think pretty highly of yourself anyway, having Tebow's number and so forth. But Anthony Richardson, he's given Emory Jones all he wants. You know, it's not like Mullen to really talk that much about his quarterback, particularly unsolicited. But apparently Anthony Richardson really impressed him. So the crowning of Emory Jones as the quarterback of Florida may not actually quite be ready to happen at this point. We're going to have to see how that works out. And Anthony Richardson is a sophomore. Emory Jones is a redshirt junior. Great arm talent, extends plays with his legs. There's all the wonderful things you're looking for a quarterback. But there's a quarterback competition going on in Florida.
You know, speaking of number 15 at Florida, Tim Tebow, he was cut from the Jaguars, and of course you saw the Twitter mob out there just attack this wonderful human being who is an absolute class act, who shows his Christianity on and off the field 1,000% of the time. And I find it really despicable that I see this on Twitter. These people attacking one of the best quarterbacks in college football history, Tim Tebow, and attacking not only his play on the football field because he missed a block or whatever, but attacking his character, which is impeccable. And also, Tim Tebow, they can argue he wasn't a good pro or not, but the kid does have one playoff win in his NFL quarterbacking history at Denver.
Yeah.
How many quarterbacks out there can say that? 90% plus cannot.
That's exactly right. I've always had a lot of respect for Tim, and I really enjoy his broadcasting career. I think he's excellent on camera, and always very positive. Easygoing, supportive, and I know he was the same kind of teammate. Tight ends. You find out when you get out there that it's, particularly now with the hybrid tight ends and stuff. I mean, it's a difficult position to play, and I think most of the attention was on the block that he made or didn't make, and talking about being the QB, going to MLB, then coming back as a tight end. All
right.
Those are tough transitions. They're tough transitions for anybody. And I've got a lot of respect for Tim. He's done everything right, and you got to hand him that. But that's the nature of Twitter. That's the nature of social media.
It's
pathetic. Anybody who's accomplished, they're gonna take their they're gonna take their hits, no doubt about it. Sometimes best not to be on it.
David, it made me sick. I mean, one block he missed, and it was all over the place. And I'm thinking they're cheering against this individual. The National Football needs more players of this character, in my opinion. I was pulling him to make the Jaguars and Urban Meyer's team in his first year, but it didn't happen. And you know what? He'll go back to broadcasting, and he'll be excellent at it.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm sure the SEC network is just tickled to death that they're going to be able to get him back on Saturdays, and and a lot of fans are too. I mean, that's a big part of the day on Saturdays is listening to Tim Tebow and his crew and everybody talking football. I mean, that's fun. That's part of it.
That's right. Switching to the other side of the football for Florida, if I may. Zachary Carter, he decided to return instead of go to the National Football League, which surprised me. But you know what? This is a huge get and a return for Florida defensively, because Zachary Carter is going to be a very high draft pick, and I expect him to have a stellar campaign this year for Florida. He is going to be a pain in every team's backfield that he plays this year.
Yeah, anytime you can get a player that quality to come back, and first of all, you have the locker room leadership that is so important, particularly for defense. That vocal leader, the guy who can do it out on the field, and he is certainly one of those. That was a big plus for Coach Marvin's staff right there.
No doubt about it. Staying with the East, let's talk Tennessee. This is Josh Heupel's first year coming over from Central Florida. It's going to be it's going to be a rebuild in Tennessee. This is going to be a fast-paced offense for Tennessee, and it's going to be quarterback friendly. But to me, how friendly it's going to be, what's going to hurt Tennessee the most, David, is they lost more than 25 in the transfer portal, and unfortunately, they are extremely thin at linebacker. First, talk about who is going to play quarterback for Tennessee, and second of all, they're going to be extremely thin at linebacker with all these changes.
Well, yeah, not only defensively, but Tennessee, my gosh. I was looking up trying to find out when their last national championship was. It's a very proud program over there in Knoxville. I've been to the campus, and you know, you get in shape just walking to class. I mean, it's so hilly. It is incredibly hilly and just a beautiful, beautiful place, the Neyland Stadium. You know, when I got through playing football, I went back to the SEC, and that was where my main focus was, being a Louisiana boy and LSU and everything. And I just used to love watching Tennessee football on Saturday nights. You know, I just didn't think there was anything more glorious from a television standpoint. Beautiful campus, love it over there. But you know, the new coach coming in, you know, he's a former quarterback at Oklahoma and has done a great job everywhere he's been. But he's having quarterbacks lead him left and right. You know, last couple of years we've had Jared Garantano there, and he left for Washington State. J.T. Strout, he went to Colorado. The lone returnees from 2020 are Brian Maurer and Harrison Bailey. You got a Virginia Tech transfer in named Hendon Hooker. You got a Michigan transfer in, Joe Milton. The other day, I think it was Sunday, Maurer walked out. They don't even know where he is. And currently, Milton and Bailey are taking the majority of the first-team reps. And, you know, so I mean, we're talking about the Michigan transfer and the returnees from last year. And so it looks like it's Milton or Bailey's job. So that's either going to be, you know, a transfer coming in, taking the job, or one of the guys who, you know, was probably third team behind Garantano and Strout, who have both left. So, I mean, what do you do at Tennessee? I mean, it's really, really in flux there, you know, with all the quarterback movement going on. But that is going to be part of this new transfer rule, this one-time transfer rule that the NCAA has instituted that allows players to move freely from school to school and not be penalized a year for their transfer. And so particularly with quarterbacks, you know, if things aren't working out immediately, if they don't see that they're going to star or they're going to shine, then they're looking for other places to go. And it's not only happening at Tennessee. Kentucky lost a 3-year starter. Terry Wilson left to go to New Mexico. And if I'm not mistaken, you know, New Mexico's kind of an option team now more than anything. So Kentucky's got a Penn State transfer who's come in named Will Levis, and he was named the starting quarterback this last Sunday. 3 years at Penn State as a running back and a quarterback. So you look at Tennessee and you look at Kentucky, my gosh, man, all kinds of stuff going on over there in the East. You know, the only stable program you have is at Missouri. And, you know, and Vandy. You know, Vandy's quarterback is back, so along with their top running back and their top receivers. So, but they have a brand new coach. And first-year head coach, never been a head coach before. So the East is going to be interesting to look at just from a quarterback standpoint to see who, you know, ends up where, who ends up a starter, who ends up leaving, who ends up coming in, because there's a lot of opportunity at those lower-level schools in the East, no doubt about it. It's crazy.
You know, David, what stuns me is that Tennessee just has 2 winning records in SEC play in the past 13 years. You know, I thought after going 8-4 in 2019, they were ready to, you know, maybe break through. Instead, they imploded. They lost to Georgia State, one of those losses in 2019, which, you know, stunned everybody. Or was that last season? Hell, I can't remember. It's either last season or the season before. And, you know,
they were 3-7 last season, so they weren't doing much of anything.
Right, but in 2019 they were 8-4. But, I mean, it just stuns me. Only 2 winning seasons in the last 13 in SEC play. To me, that's not Tennessee State football, but that's where they are. You mentioned Missouri, and they do have some stability in the quarterback position with Connor Bazelak, and we'll see how they do with Missouri. They're projected to what? They're projected to possibly finish high as 3rd in the SEC East. We only got about 5 minutes left in the show. I wanted to give you some national picks before we're done. Everybody's got Missouri, picking 3rd. They lost their all-time leading rusher last year, Larry Roundtree, the 3rd, and they did lose the linebacker Nick Bolton on defense. But a lot of people think Missouri is going to be a tough out. They have a lot of returning starters, and a lot of people think they're going to finish 3rd in the East. Do you?
Well, they got a heck of a coach there, I think now, and coming into his 2nd year. They finished 3rd in the SEC East last year. They didn't have a winning record; they were 5-5, but
right.
they were behind Georgia and Florida and ahead of everybody else.
You're
so
right.
I would think.
I'm sorry, David. You're right. This is year 3, and he is 17 and 6 overall in 2 years. Doing a really good job.
Doing a great job. Yeah. And if Florida falters, they could easily move up into 2nd in the SEC East. With everybody else in such disarray, I think you got to look at Georgia, Florida, and Missouri, as being the top 3 teams in the East. Now, Georgia's head and shoulders above everybody in terms of what expectations are. But, don't overlook Missouri. They're a solid program.
No doubt. Kentucky, real quick, I mean, they're always a hard-nosed football team under Mark Stoops. And, the run game is always strong. We'll see. They don't have great quarterback play, which has kind of kept them down. But, they've got a lot of people got Kentucky above Tennessee, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. So the SEC East is going to be just as interesting as the West. We got about less than 3 minutes left. Quickly tell me, what is your Final Four in college football? Who's your national champion? And this will answer my question. Do you expect more than one SEC team to get in the playoff?
Really quick, Todd, I want to make this comment. It was 2011, 10 years ago, when we had 2 SEC teams in the national championship. Remember that, of course?
Yeah.
LSU had beaten Alabama 9-6 in overtime during the regular season.
Yeah.
And LSU killed Georgia in the SEC title game, and Alabama came back to play in the national championship game against LSU and won 21-0. That was 10 years ago this season, and just an incredible, turn of events how that happened. That was BCS. That's where you pick I guess that kind of set the stage where you pick a non-champion to play in the championship game. And so that sets a precedent. So now we still have 4 teams that are going. And as you and I have talked about, I think you need to pick the highest ranked 4 conference, Power 5 conference champions and put them in there and let a committee seed them or just go by the rankings. But if you do that,
quick, we got about 50 seconds left. Who's your Final Four?
Well, you got to go Alabama. You got to go Oklahoma. I think Ohio State comes out of the Big Ten. And then just like last year, there will be an at-large team for that number 4 spot. And it could be Notre Dame again. It could be A&M. But it probably will not be a Pac-12 or, anybody else coming out of there.
So you don't have Clemson in there?
And Clemson, yes. Let's add Clemson in there as your 4th team. Let's go with those, because that's who
we got about 15 seconds left, David. I just want to say thank you for coming on. You can reach David at David Walker QB on Twitter, and also you can reach the company he works for at the Rebel Walk on Twitter. You can reach myself at ATL Prime Sports and at Corder Todd. You can reach our producer, Mark Mancini in Los Angeles at Mancini Sports. JJ, our co-host at JJ Get You One, and our normally our producer at Wayne in Memphis at RWY Jr. So that's how you can get all of us on social media. David, I want to thank you for coming on again. Sorry to cut you off there at the end. We're almost out of time. Thank you for coming on. We'll have to bring on some other folks within the company and talk about recruiting, bring you back on during the college football season, and we'll see if your predictions come true. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. All right, everybody, that's it. Thank you for listening in to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. For Todd Corder in Atlanta, for Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, have a great week, everybody.